As Trump turns away from Ukraine, even supporters in Congress rethink aid. When President Biden made a last-minute request to Congress recently that lawmakers include an extra $24 billion in military aid for Ukraine in their year-end spending package, it received little attention and no serious consideration from members of either party. That was partly because Ukraine has yet to spend the last multi-billion-dollar infusion lawmakers approved early this year to back the country in its war with Russia. But the chilly reception also reflected how reality has set in on Capitol Hill, that the election of Donald Trump has effectively brought the era of U.S. military support to Ukraine to an end. The president-elect has made no secret of his animus towards Kiev and the nearly $175 billion the United States has invested in its fight against Russia. Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana, dismissed Biden's Thanksgiving week request by noting that the question of how and whether to continue helping Ukraine was no longer up to him. It's not the place of Joe Biden to make that decision, Johnson said, adding that the GOP will wait for direction from Trump when it came to Ukraine. While the bipartisan consensus has long existed in Congress for supporting Kiev in its struggle against Russia, a majority of House Republicans have opposed sending military aid for more than a year, and in the weeks since Trump's election, several of the staunchest Republican boosters of providing funding for Ukraine's war have markedly changed their tune to match his, even as they continue to speak about the importance of supporting the country itself. Instead, they've said that it's in both Kiev's internal interest and Washington's to end the war instead of continuing to cut checks that might prolong it. I don't see any appetite for that, said Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas, who in the past has been one of the GOP's most resolute voices, proclaiming a moral imperative for continuing to support Ukraine, adding, I'm hopeful that President Trump can help bring that to some sort of resolution. The shift is notable considering that just a few months ago, a strong bipartisan majority in Congress voted to approve more than $60 billion in military assistance for Ukraine over the opposition of Trump and his supporters. Now there is diminishing enthusiasm among Republicans for funding weapons packages that Trump does not appear interested in sending. Appetite is waning, said Senator Todd Young, Republican of Indiana, who in the past has been a reliable vote in favor of military assistance packages for Ukraine. Since the president ran on this in his resolve to do his best to try and bring this to some sort of negotiating resolution, it makes sense for me to give him an opportunity to negotiate a positive resolution. In Congress, support for funding Ukraine's war has slowly been eroding amid steady pressure from Trump's allies in the party's ultra-conservative isolationist wing. They've called for diverting Ukraine funds to other allies such as Israel or domestic projects like border security. They should not send any more money, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican from Georgia, one of the most vocal opponents of aiding Ukraine, said in an interview, adding the war will be over as soon as President Trump gets in. Biden's recent request for more aid, seen as a desperate a bid to lock in funds for Ukraine before Trump takes office, was arguably premature, since Congress began directing special funds towards the war in early 2022. Lawmakers have regularly waited until resources are nearly depleted to appropriate the next tranche. The administration has about $16 billion of Ukraine assistance remaining, including the $5.6 billion worth of authority to send weapons from existing stockpiles and $1.2 billion for material purchases over the longer term. When Trump takes office, he's expected to inherit control over several $billion worth of unused Ukraine aid. Some Republicans have seized on that cushion as a reason to avoid broaching any difficult conversations about Ukraine's future reliance on U.S. assistance, in the hopes that by the time such debates become necessary, they are moot. We should not be running out of funds in the immediate future, said Representative Tom Cole, Republican of Oklahoma, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee. So there'll be time, hopefully, to work this out. But it's not clear that continued funding is being contemplated as part of the long-term solution. Historically, pro-Ukraine figures in Trump's close circle of advisors, such as Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, have already been distancing themselves from the idea of pushing for more military aid, touting Trump's proposal to offer loans instead as a reasonable alternative. And since Trump's win, the ultra-conservative wing of the party has only been emboldened in its demands to ice Ukraine out of U.S. funding altogether, meaning the political price of promoting war aid is getting steeper. The Republicans are dropping off, but keep in mind a lot of those Republicans are not dropping off because they believe that Russia should win, he said, concluding that the reason for the exodus was that they're scared of the attacks from Trump's supporters. In the House, lawmakers who remain unequivocally committed to helping Ukraine are finding themselves in an ever-shrinking minority at odds with Trump. I wish the president had moral clarity on this, Representative Don Bacon, Republican of Nebraska, said, so I don't know what's going to happen, but I know where I'm standing, he said. This is from New York Times on DNYUZ. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.